Good afternoon, traders. Welcome to Stock Market Movers, where we go over all the headlines and, of course, get to the expert opinions that you guys need to hear to go ahead and stay in the informational edge. Are you guys ready for today's show? We're going to go and get into, of course, Qualcomm interview. We just had an interview recently. Now we're going to get into the automotive, as it's really the driver going forward. And I think a lot of investors are trying to find out more. We'll talk about that. Let's get into our topics today. Today, we'll talk about the Fed chair, getting Fed Chair Jerome Powell doing the rug pull here, CME Fed tool, bear case versus bull case. We'll talk about oil stocks and the battle for U.S. EV buyers incentive, the dollar index, and Qualcomm stock. Of course, we'll talk about the edge of possible coming on at 1:15. We'll go ahead and dive into that first interview. Let's go ahead. Let's take a look at the overall market and see what we saw today. And welcome to Stock Market Movers. I'm your host, Money Mitch. Let's dive on in. There are three ways to make a living in this business: be first, be smarter, or cheat. I can't help you cheat, but I can give you the informational edge to help you succeed in the markets. Welcome to Stock Market Movers. All the market moving headlines and expert opinions every day. They say money is the oxygen of capitalism, and I want to breathe more than any man alive. How we doing, traders? Let's go ahead. Let's dive on in. In a few moments, we'll be joined by the head of automotive product and program management at Qualcomm, Nakul Duggal. Excited to get into that. Chris Ketchy will be joining me in just a few minutes to do that interview. Let's go into the markets and see what we saw today. Of course, we got a rug pulled on us on Friday, and a lot of that was Jerome Powell's speech. And you guys are seeing us bounce back a little bit today in the SPY. Let's take a look at the daily outlook. You can see we're getting green, and a lot of this off of the 50% retracement levels that we've been looking at in the SPY, as we're getting a little bit of a bounce back today. And it's going to be interesting. Now, of course, now you start getting the talks of the bull and the bear case. It's interesting to take a look at it. And which way do you guys feel in the chat? I'll let you guys chime on in. Are you guys in the bull camp here or in the bear camp going forward? Let's talk about the bear case first. Then we'll get into the bull case. So the bear case really starts coming in as we seeing moments like this, where the probability of the 75 basis points in September's FOMC meeting rose to 70.5%. And that just shows us that the CME's Fed Watch tool is starting to point towards what the 75 basis point hike, and something that we're going to be looking at as we get into September and after the first CPI reading. Of course, we will get that FOMC meeting in kind of mid to late September. And so we got to watch to see how the CPI reading comes in so that we can catch that before the FOMC meeting. Now, of course, once that starts, you'll start getting what? In September, you start getting quantitative tightening. This is what I think you guys need to pay attention to now, as the Fed's plans to reduce the 8.5 trillion balance sheet beginning in June 1st was first set off with a 30 billion maturing treasury securities and 17.5 billion in maturing agency mortgage-backed securities per month. So essentially, it first started off with about 47.5 maximum there. Now those caps are going to be raised in here. So in September 1st, those caps get raised into 60 billion and 35 billion. So the maximum potential roll-off can now be all the way up to 95 billion. At first, it was up to a maximum of 47.5. Now you're seeing that kind of double starting to stack up. This could really start causing some issues for U.S. equities as we start seeing, of course, what the liquidity getting tightened up from the quantitative tightening. Now, of course, what are some other things that we need to watch for? Well, if you guys caught Stephanie Link, Chief Investment Strategist and Portfolio Manager, right here on Stock Market Movers, she was on Friday, and she was mentioning, of course, we need to keep on watch that inflation rate of the U.S. slowed to 8.5 in July from over a 40-year high of 9.1 hit in June, but also to keep watch on natural gas and oil prices. This could be the reason why, of course, inflation reaches new highs, and she's keeping an eye on it to see what happens in that situation. Will we get to a new high? And of course, when we talk about September, we also talk about, right, it's statistically the worst month for the markets. The Dow has fallen in 11 out of the last 18 pre-midterm Septembers going back to 1950. This, of course, is according to data from the Stock Trader Almanac. So just keep on watch. You guys know that the bear case here is definitely leading on up. And the question starts, will oil lead inflation right back up? That's the question that I'm asking myself now, and the question that I've been looking at for a while. This is my question on, has inflation truly peaked or not? Right today, we get West Texas Intermediate crude added 3.2% to trade at 95.99 per barrel. We also got the international benchmark Brent crude advanced 2.7% to 103.69. Also, if you guys remember, in March, WTI surged above $130 a barrel for the first time since 2008. And what do we see leading up today? Well, a lot of the oil stocks are leading up today as energy takes that next step up. And you guys can see here, this is a sector outlook on energy, and you guys can see how we're really starting to come back for, of course, those June highs. We'll see if we get back on up there. And Goldman coming out on a leap and saying, Goldman now saying it's time to buy commodities. Goldman Sachs saying a tight physical market should support prices with oil, the commodity of the last resort in the era of severe energy shortages. We believe the pullback in the entire oil complex provides an attractive entry point for long only investments. There you guys see, stepping up to the plate, Goldman Sachs looking for another push in oil. All right, let's get out of the bear case, and that's kind of more of the bear case. Let's go into the bull case, right? Well, the bull case was as simply said as this, right? That the Fed would pivot early. Of course, now there's kind of mentions, okay, so we're going to get maybe a hike rate in September, but will we keep it kind of closer towards that 3.75 and 4% benchmark rate that has been talked about? Or will we see, of course, a higher benchmark rate? Will we see them continuing to go up? The bull case is that, of course, the Fed sees inflation turning around probably here on the CPI data. And now we start getting consecutive results that are pointing that inflation has peaked and not spiking back up. I think that's one thing that they're looking at, maybe a 3-month average to see if we really are starting to come down below that. Inflation subsiding is really what you want to see if you're in the bull camp. If you're trying to get this all the way back up to a new highs, if you're trying to get the SPY to get back up there, you're going to need, of course, inflation subsiding, and you're also going to need the growth stocks to catch the bid. Let's take a look how ARKK performed today as you're seeing it get on back up today, and the 15-minute getting a little bit of a bounce. This is what you want to be seeing if you're part of course, the bull case here. We'll see if it can get back up and lead multiple days to come back up through the rally. Of course, if ARKK can go back up towards 52 and it just starts pushing up higher than that, well, that's going to be a good sign that the growth names are really taking control and the bull thesis is in. Something that I'll definitely keep on watch to see how these stocks perform as we're seeing ARKK down today. And it's up today. What's leading it up today? Let's take a look. Well, it looks like Coin getting a little bit of a lift. NTLA, PD, Unity getting a little bit of a lift. We'll see what happens in these names. Can they stay green on the day? And can growth continue to push back and buy the dip here? Will it get back up there? Will the buy the dippers hold it up? We'll see what happens in some of these growth names. Of course, you're going to see the battle out there in the growth names as you're seeing a lot of kind of investors starting to point to whether this is an opportunity for them or not. It's something definitely to keep on watch. All right, so definitely oil leading us up today, and that's definitely something that we need to keep on watch for inflation. And if you're going to get the bull case, it's going to be with growth continuing to kind of buy this dip and getting right back up there and really holding the lows that were put in June. All right, let's go into the last conversation here. I'm going to bring up the battle for US EV buyer incentives, where it starts getting interesting, right? I mean, we're going to talk about automotive coming on up, but something that has been recently kind of mentioned that's really affecting some of the auto manufacturers is interesting as the US governing rules come out really about the EV incentive requirements for automakers to source more of those materials in North America will continue to have these prices soar, right? We saw last week mentions of Ford with the EMOC, right? And so you're starting to see more and more mentions of raising these prices, and a lot of this coming off of the Inflation Reduction Act. If we're going to get those EV incentives that a lot of companies want, they might have to raise prices because those materials sourced here in the United States are going to cost more. So this is something to watch. And then today we get an interesting headline from Honda and LG Energy Solutions plans to invest 4.4 billion to build a battery plant for electric vehicles in the US. This is what I'm kind of looking for, because of course we're going to need to probably do some bigger investments here in the United States to catch up if we want to get those EV incentives. So mentions like this is definitely something to keep an eye out for as you're seeing the EV story develop. Of course, buyers' incentives, the focus here, as the US governing rules have changed from those materials being outsourced, now needs to be kind of sourced here in North America. And will this cause the price to rise? Definitely keep it on your radar. All right, in a second, we're going to get into it here. Chris should be joining up in a second with me, and then we'll be getting into our interview just coming on up. Like always, smash the like button for me out there as we continue going right here on Stock Market Movers. All right, last thing I want to touch on is, of course, PDD getting some lift today, and a lot of this coming off of mentions with China of the audits. And you're starting to see today definitely getting that little bit of a lift there. PDD coming in with their earnings at an EPS at $1.13, beating the 39-cent estimate. Sales were at 4.69 billion, beating the 3.49 billion. And something to keep on watch as we're starting to see some of these Chinese stocks and China stocks get on up there with the audit mentions that were last week. Of course, U.S. audit regulators forged an agreement with Chinese regulators to inspect and investigate registered accounting firms. So we'll see how this continues to perform. Definitely PDD, the strongest of the few holding today. We'll see if those can keep pushing on up, or will the China stocks turn right back down? All right, let's get out of the Chinese stocks. I do see Chris Ketchy in the background, and let's go ahead. Let's bring on my friend, one of the best journalists for us out there, and definitely covers a wide range of topics from the cryptocurrency market to tech to SPACs to just about anything that's under the stock market. Chris Ketchy knows. How we doing, Chris?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I try to cover everything that our readers and viewers and listeners care about and want to know more about, kind of like on this show. So, whether it's crypto, NFT, SPACs, or, big technology companies like the one we're about to talk about, I try to bring it all.
Yeah, and it's all about the story with you and I. I think that's one thing that you and I definitely stay close to, is trying to find where the trends are going, not necessarily where they are today. Because where they are today, I mean, yeah, it's great to know the trends that are going to be here right now. But I'm always worried about what's coming, what's tomorrow bringing, what's the future bringing. So I think like an interview that we're about to go into is so important, because we want to understand really where the trends are going, because that's what I feel are the best investment opportunities for our generation, right? It's not necessarily if we're kind of thinking about, let's say, like EV, perfect example. EV is something that definitely in our generation is going to kick off sooner or later. Now, the question is who will be taking control of that story, and moments like we're about to get into is what it's all about, right? And where we're getting into automotive now and the technology that's really getting into vehicles. I mean, if I still think about the days where there was kind of, the old analog vehicles where you didn't have any maps or anything, or I still remember the days where I have to print out the MapQuest directions. Do you remember those days, Chris?
I do remember that. Printing out MapQuest. That takes me back. Now you got GPS right on screen, right on the dash. It's crazy.
Yep, and that's really what it's all about and how it kind of transitioned then. If someone would have told me back when I was doing some MapQuest directions that sooner or later we would have a phone that would go ahead and tell me what direction to go to, let alone the vehicle itself giving me that information, I probably definitely as a kid would have looked at you a little strange. But that's what it's all about in understanding the future, what's coming. So let's go ahead. Let's dive into our interview today. I thought it would be really good to start off with a little bit of a trailer, a little bit of a hype. This is actually from Qualcomm, so I actually appreciate that they made this. I'm going to go ahead and play that, and then Chris Ketchy will go ahead and lead into the interview. All right, I'm going to throw myself in the back, put this video on, and Chris, you do the rest.
Love that video there, Mitch. Thanks for playing that. I am happy to welcome to the show Nakul Duggal, who is the head of automotive product and program management at Qualcomm. That ticker, of course, QCOM. Welcome to the Edge of Possibilities. Nakul, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Chris. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So let's dive into Qualcomm and the automotive story. So the company recently reported third quarter earnings. We saw the auto segment have $350 million in revenue. What were some of the key highlights within that third quarter for the Qualcomm auto segment?
You know, we've had a very strong set of results in automotive, an area that we've been building upon consistently over the last many years. We've been leaders in the telematics space, which is basically how the car connects internally as well as to the cloud. We started to invest in the infotainment space. I was listening to your conversation with Mitch about maps and navigation. The entire in-car experience is evolving, and that is a space that we are now leaders in. And we are, of course, very focused on driver assistance and automated driving. So all of those three categories coming together have contributed to the great results that we shared.
Now, you heard Mitch and I talk about, the future. Where are we headed? And a number on the third quarter presentation definitely caught my eye and probably some other investors. This is a pipeline of $19 billion in design wins for the automotive division at Qualcomm. I mean, that's a massive number. Can you just break down kind of how that $19 billion plays out over the next couple of years?
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, the automotive industry is going through a transformation like never before. And I think fundamentally what is happening is as automotive companies are becoming technology companies, they are looking to technology partners like ourselves to build a much more closer relationship with. As compared to what used to be in the past, today we are actually working directly with automakers to help define what their next generation platforms look like. So the decisions are very much about what type of technology, what type of semiconductors, what type of architectures automakers want to define for their next generation. And that's where our Snapdragon digital chassis comes in. This entire pipeline comprises of various portions of our Snapdragon digital chassis, where we are working directly with automakers to be able to help build their next platforms.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll dive into Snapdragon here in a minute. A couple questions about some companies that you are working with. So Volkswagen, I saw mentioned in the third quarter. Can you just remind viewers and listeners some of the companies that Qualcomm's automotive division is working with?
So we really work with every major automaker globally. We've been in this business for over 2 decades, and over the last few years, as we have doubled down on driver assistance, on the cockpit business, and of course, 5G and telematics. Volkswagen specifically, as you mentioned, selected us for their next generation automated driving semiconductor platforms. That was back in, I think, in March or April of this year. And that is one of many different OEMs that we're working with. We announced a partnership with Stellantis that selected us for all of their 14 brands for their next generation cockpit solutions. These are a few examples of the direct partnerships that we have been building with automakers.
Now, one thing we know about the auto industry is sometimes, and big technology, is they don't like to say all the companies that they're working with and kind of keep some of that confidential. Are there some companies that Qualcomm is working with in the auto field that has not been announced? And is that something that Qualcomm will be able to share in the future?
Yeah, these are, as you mentioned, Chris, fairly sensitive topics. And there is a long list of customers and programs that we are working with that we tend to keep close to our vest up until when the announcements are close to when programs go into production. But what's also changing is that the relationships that automakers are building are now much more direct. So you will hear from us over the coming weeks and months, much more detail. In fact, we have an Automotive Investor Day coming up on September 22nd in New York, which will be streamed live. And we hope to actually share a whole lot more detail about many more customers and partnerships that we are building.
So we do know, of course, that Apple, a company that Qualcomm has worked with before, is getting into the car business. I know you can't share details, but could past relationships with a company like Apple kind of help Qualcomm get an edge to maybe some future deals in that division?
So look, I think one of the most important things that we have realized as we work very closely with automakers is that every automaker wants to build their own very unique brand identity. And we are spending a lot of time helping automakers do exactly that. All of our products are designed to make sure that automakers can differentiate based upon what makes sense to their customers, how they build that very close relationship with their customers. And of course, there will be many different ecosystems that consumers will want to see in the vehicle, which I think automakers will support. But I think the centroid is that the automaker owns the experience that consumers wish to be able to enjoy in the vehicle. And that's what we are working to enable.
Awesome. So Nakul, you mentioned the Snapdragon digital chassis. Can you just break down for viewers and listeners not familiar with that, what exactly is that and how does that power the Qualcomm Automotive segment going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you think about the car, there are a few things that are becoming very important for automakers and consumers alike. I think the first is that every car is connected because the car has its own life that is going to continue over the lifetime of the vehicle. The vehicle will change, it is software defined, and it has to be connected all the time to its environment, whether it is for charging, whether it is inside the vehicle, or whether it is to the cloud. And the Snapdragon digital chassis through our telematics and connectivity solutions enables that first piece. The second piece, as I just mentioned, is the in-car experience, the relationship that the automaker wishes to build with their consumer, with their customer. And that's enabled through our Snapdragon digital cockpit. And then finally, and very importantly, safety and autonomy are becoming very important for a lot of different vehicle segments because these are going to reduce collisions, going to reduce accidents. And the Snapdragon Ride portfolio, which is the third piece of our Snapdragon digital chassis, completes that picture. All of this is connected to our car-to-cloud solutions. So the entire platform is basically cloud connected. It allows automakers to be able to add new functionality, update systems, upgrade software. This entire solution, this entire digital chassis is what we enable automakers with as far as how they build their next generation platforms.
So we are seeing lots of new trends play out in the automotive segment, electric vehicles, connected vehicles, autonomous driving. Can you just talk about maybe some of the biggest trends that Qualcomm is seeing in the auto industry and maybe which area are you most excited about personally while leading Qualcomm's auto division?
One of the pieces that is very exciting is as automakers start to move towards electrification, they have an opportunity to rethink the entire car architecture. And if you have heard about this in the past, car architectures from a semiconductor perspective, a software perspective, are highly complex. This is because they have been built upon generations of layers of complexity that have been built for many, many years. As the car moves towards electrification, there is an opportunity to start afresh. And what we are starting to see is a lot of simplification in the architecture, where you are using next generation semiconductors that have a lot of different processing capability. Cars are becoming much more software defined. There is the ability for the car to evolve over its life like any other connected device might be. And that creates a tremendous opportunity for companies like us because we are in the business of building high performance compute platforms. The car architecture is integrating a lot of new functionality, is centralizing it, and making it available for automakers to be able to use software to then expose functions, expose capabilities to customers.
So Qualcomm recently completed the acquisition of Arriver. Can you dive into how this can help Qualcomm in that self-driving segment that we hear so much about growing in the auto industry?
Yeah, so Arriver was a very important acquisition for us. We are a company that has a tremendous amount of systems capability, but we wanted to add a lot of complementary functions within our organization to be able to have experience with safety systems, experience where software was developed specifically for vehicles for a safety application. And Arriver was doing exactly that. Arriver was part of Veoneer, a Swedish tier one, that was focused on developing computer vision and drive policy stacks, which are basically the software functions that help define the driving behavior of the vehicle from a camera perspective and an overall driving behavior. We've integrated about 1,100 people in Europe and in North America mostly. And these teams are going to be part of our Snapdragon digital chassis, and they will bring the software expertise that will sit on top of a ride platform. So the timing is great. We are working with a variety of different OEMs. In fact, the partnership we announced with BMW later part of last year is going to bring in the Arriver capability into those solutions that we'll be building with them.
Love that. So you mentioned Qualcomm hosting an Automotive Investor Day, September 22nd. So what can investors expect from this event? Will we see, product demos? Will we see announcements, new partners? What does Qualcomm have up its sleeve that maybe you can hint at without giving too much away here?
Yeah, I think they will see a little bit of all of the above, Chris. And, I think the important part is this is our first automotive focus investor day. So it talks about how important this vertical is to us, how, the success that we've seen. And really, as this industry transforms, I think this is a great opportunity for Qualcomm to be able to even scale up to expanding our portfolio, build much closer, much tighter partnerships with automakers, and help reshape automotive as it transforms over the next decade.
With that being said, will we see maybe some M&A opportunities for Qualcomm's automotive division on top of that Arriver deal that just closed?
Look, we are always looking at the right opportunities, whether we invest organically or get some acceleration or pull in some unique assets. So there is so much of change that is happening in this space, many, many different areas that we are focused on. And I'm sure, as we get closer, we'll certainly inform you of those.
Nakul, last question here. We did recently get the passage of the CHIPS Act. Just broadly speaking, how does the CHIPS Act impact and help the chip segment within the automotive industry, and maybe how does Qualcomm benefit from that?
Yeah, look, I think this is a historic landmark. I think the U.S. investing in the CHIPS and Science Act is very important. We are one of the largest designers. We are a fabless company. We work with foundry partners globally. And to actually see that the U.S. is going to be investing in local self-sufficiency as far as chip development goes, really makes a big difference to Qualcomm and, of course, to all of our automotive partners, where resiliency of the semiconductor supply chain has become extremely important, as you know. So I think this is really a step in the right direction.
Perfect. Nakul Duggal, head of automotive product and program management at Qualcomm, ticker QCOM. Nakul, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule joining us today. I am looking forward to that Automotive Investor Day in September and maybe see you there.
Thank you, Chris. Good to be with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Another fun interview here with Qualcomm. Looks like Mitch here. Mitch, Qualcomm, I mean, connected car. You heard him say it right. He heard us talk about MapQuest, GPS, how the car is evolving. I mean, we're getting towards self-driving cars, autonomous. It's an exciting time for the auto industry. It really is. I mean, it is changing. My favorite part, I think, of that interview was him saying that these auto companies can just, rethink the entire car right from scratch instead of just adding like one item. Start from scratch, connected car, every part inside. As you play that video, I mean, it's amazing now what cars can do. What do you think, Mitch?
Yeah, it is definitely amazing what they can do. I mean, when we think about it actually moving on into the vehicle, one of the things, and he mentioned it, is that it needs to be staying connected, right? And so I think, you definitely need some pretty immersive chips that can handle a lot of processing, right? And kind of real-time processing. So definitely that's where the Snapdragon comes into play. And I think that's where, you have been seeing a lot of the struggling technologies. Like, I'm going to be as simple as I can say it. Toyota, you didn't do that great on my RAV4. It doesn't have a Snapdragon leading it here. And so maybe that could be the move. But one of the things that I would say is, this is what we're looking for. Now, when we go to buy vehicles, we're looking to not only get a vehicle that has, performance, but it also has the technology behind it that we're looking for, right? And I think this is definitely where Qualcomm is noticing a big, massive opportunity. You talked about it early on about kind of the TAM and what's available really going into this. It's not a small opportunity, right? And I think as we keep moving closer to self-driving vehicles, even further on, we're going to be needing companies like Qualcomm to definitely lead here. So I'm excited to hear all about Qualcomm's Investor Day. That's going to be coming up at the end of the month. I can't wait for that, September 22nd. I know that we'll be doing a lot of coverage on that, and we'll see what else do they have in store for us, right? I mean, I know that you kind of mentioned there about the rumors of Apple, and I can't blame you for mentioning the rumors that are out there. I always try,
right?
Hey, Chris doesn't hide away. At least that's for certain. And I appreciated you coming on and nailing another interview for us here as we took a look, of course, at the automotive side here as we focus on what is going to go and happen out of here. They call it the edge of possible. So let's see how far they can really push it. And we'll definitely check it on out, Chris. I know that you will have some great coverage for us right on Benzinga.
Definitely. Always my pleasure to be on here with you, my brother. Everyone smash that like for Money Mitch, and I'll be back to do some more interviews. Take care, Mitch. Have a good rest of the show. I'll be watching from the back.
Take care, Chris. All right, let's continue going. We'll get into the headlines out there, what was hot and what was not today. I hope you guys enjoyed us going through a nice deeper dive into the automotive of Qualcomm and the opportunities that they have for you. Definitely look out for the Investors Day that's going to be on this 22nd. Will definitely be something to watch. All right, let's keep going. Let's get into what was hot and what was not. Of course, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but let's dive into it here. It's all about the energy names, and those were what leading. And you can see here, we're taking another step up on these oil names as you're seeing XOM really take off here. Oxy really pushing here. These were definitely stocks that I was looking for to buy the pullback opportunity today. Talked about this on live trading. And I think that, with this, you just keep your eyes on oil. Will we get that massive boom on up? Look at USO even making a move on up today. This one lags a little bit. It's not as strong as it, but follows the oil markets a little bit closer. You're seeing USO starting to push here. we'll see what happens with these oil names. It's definitely what was hot today, and utilities also bouncing back a little bit today. Of course, these are getting on back there. You can see Duke finding a little bit of some support right now, and also XEL. These are some that I'd keep on watch as you continue to see what happens with these. Will they continue to push? I think these are some that, just stair step their way up. We'll see what happens. Uranium names blasting off still. LEU getting a nice little push there. Yes, the uranium names are getting a nice little lift. You can see it here in industrial metals and minerals. LEU is actually leading that industry there. You got DNN. You got UEC getting some lift, UUU getting some lift, URG. There's so many of these you guys can watch. UROY. So a lot of these uranium plays definitely still taking lead, even TMC getting up off the ground. So keep these ones on watch as they've been making big lifts up. What was down today? Well, let's take a look here. From the open, you essentially have nothing in the red, but financial services kind of the weakest bounce back there. Not big bounce back there. You could take a look at the global banks and see which ones are kind of getting into the green, which ones aren't. And you can see the mixed bag. JPM there in the red, Bank of America in the red, but Wells Fargo into the green slightly, and HSBC slightly into the green here. And we'll see what happens with those names. Technology did bounce back in the morning, but now back into the red. Names like NVIDIA showed me that. And you guys can see it here on a 5-minute. I'm going to go so you guys can see that quick opening push and then a fade on out there. We'll see if it keeps fading, or does it get back above the VWAP and kind of test on up? Or is it just kind of more of a slow fade here as you're seeing NVIDIA work its way right back down there towards the 159? I mean, to think that this stock was on Thursday the 18th up to 190, oof. It's been a quick downturn there in some of these semiconductor names. AMD also down big today. And you guys can take a look here. TSM also down 1.59. These are just looking weak. What's up today? Qualcomm is up today. Interesting to see Qualcomm up today. Nice to see that. Intel also down today, but you could see it. It was a lot of these tech stocks that kind of led, and it was from mainly in semiconductors that were getting the bounce last week, now getting hit down and getting hit down quickly. All right, let's keep going. We'll take a look at what else is moving on out there. We talked about the bear case. We talked about the bull case for the overall market. We talked about what was moving out there. We also covered the battle for U.S. EV buyer incentives. So definitely keep that on your radar. We saw China stocks making some lift. I also was watching kind of the basic materials to take a look at to see what it was going on in gold and silver. Interesting to see them down today. Yet, I mean, we did see the dollar index hit its highest level since September 2002. Now trading at 108.74. That was a little while ago, but you can look at the dollar index on Monday hit a 109.47, which was its highest level, reaching back to 109.67. So definitely seeing the dollar up is going to give you concerns about the silver and gold trade. You can see those coming right back down, even though they got a little bit of bounce when the dollar was weak. They're coming right back down when the dollar is getting strong. And that, of course, isn't good for U.S. stocks either, as you're seeing them come down a little bit. We'll see if they can keep bouncing here on the daily. I did see Netflix up today. You can see it up a significant amount. Catching the bid here, getting it back up there, went to 229. Now caught the bid around the 225 level. We'll take a look here as the shares of the streaming giant are up here after Bloomberg reported that the ad tier could cost between $7 and $9 a month. Really cheap price there for an overall kind of price of a streaming service, and that giving Netflix some lift. And I think this is going to help it try to get pushed back into the shadow zone above it. We'll see if it's able to do that. Did they give Disney the lift? Yeah, a little bit of a lift there on Disney. You can see it up today. So definitely these media stocks getting a little bit of a lift with that Netflix mention of the ad tier cost that could cost between $7 and $9. All right, let's keep going here. Bitcoin also up almost 1,000 from the weekend lows. I don't know about Bitcoin, and we could take a look at it, but I'm not just so positive that Bitcoin's coming back. Mara pushing up there. I think these are kind of bull traps there. But that's just to each his own. As you're seeing these little bounce back, it's just hard to see kind of these bounce back actually hold. I mean, look at this Mara takedown. It was a hard takedown. Now, of course, catching a little bit of a bounce. We'll see if these can really bounce back. MSTR has been one that I've been talking about since we were up here above the 300s, looking for this to really just start breaking down. Of course, the CEO leaving does not make it any better. I think MicroStrategy eventually can be down below 100. Massive opportunity there, MicroStrategy to the downside. We'll see what happens. All right, getting out of that, I did see some people talk about the meme stocks. Let's take a quick look here. AMC up significantly today, not looking too bad. GME up also. Triple BY. There you go, getting that lift there. I actually talked about it on live trading today that you could see Triple BY take that lift today because they were going to mention kind of their business strategy moving forward. And I think it's just fluff, really, kind of a fluff post. But hey, the fluff got the stock moving, and that's really all that needed to happen there. I was also keeping an eye out on Party to see if it could get back above $2. You see, we got right to that $2, turned around a little bit here. We'll see if it actually gets above that and actually gets a move. All right, just another tool in your box for risk on. Yes, I agree. Definitely risk on type of days. You can definitely look at Bitcoin. You can definitely look at some of the growth names and try to be nailing them. Maybe it's just miners also. Whenever you see Bitcoin up, that's a good way of attacking the market. You can see Mara made a quick move up today out the gates and now has essentially been going sideways since the open. I mean, since about 9:45, it really hasn't gone anywhere. All right, was waiting for a dip in CSIQ, but it doesn't seem to want to happen. CSIQ, this is a healthcare stock. No, that's Canadian Solar, right? Yeah, I was like, that's solar play, right? All right, yeah, it's solar, not turning around just yet. I mean, this is holding on today. You can see it. It's the only industry in tech that's actually up, and a lot of that is probably some of these kind of holding it up here. JKS getting some good lift. MaxN getting some lift. Beam getting some lift. Array holding on. The one that I was going to watch to tell me was ENPH. If this keeps cracking, yeah, you could see the solar names kind of turn back around. But if it keeps holding the 1 hour pullbacks like it held today, that's when it can get back there towards that 300. I'd be looking for a takeout of 280. If it does take out 280, it'll probably fill in this gap down here towards the 260. That's what I'm watching for. And ENPH and the solar names. So look for the leaders to turn around first, I think, before you get that Canadian Solar to kind of turn around there. All right, let's keep going here, guys. In a second, I'm going to keep going to names that are moving today. Like always, guys, smash the thumbs on up. It's about 1:43. We're going to keep going till 2 p.m. Do me the favor, hit that like as we keep going here. I'm going to go ahead into a Benzinga Pro trailer, and then we'll go ahead and keep going here with the show.
When you want to maximize your performance in the market, you need access to the highest quality tools and news available. Benzinga Pro stands out from all of the options you'll be presented with, and their instant access to market-moving news positions you to be prepared to take on the market in the best ways possible. Here's how it works. Benzinga Pro's news desk creates original news content that's available on your main news feed and gives you actionable information about companies you may want to invest in. This news desk information gives you the chance to beat the market, receive impactful news as it breaks, and jump on trending stocks before and as they rise. And beyond that, Benzinga Pro is packed with helpful features and unique insights that give you the best information possible. There's tools like the Live Audio Squawk, which streams every day with important news and timely updates, and the real-time news alerts that allow you to stay on top of every developing story you're keeping tabs on. Alerts and news will be sent straight to your inbox or delivered as live sound alerts. For those investors that want real-time, actionable, and breaking news about companies they may be looking to invest in, Benzinga Pro is the tool to use.
All right, traders, let's keep it going here. Let's take a look at what stocks are moving on the day and to see where we could find some opportunities going into into the end of the week here. I am taking a look to see what happens in these kind of natural gas names. Of course, natural gas, I think we'll pull back a little bit here and then eventually get a big rip. So that's what I'm keeping an eye out for. As we've been going sideways here on UNG, I'm going to look to see what happens. Do we get that big breakout? Of course, on the 31st, we're supposed to get Nord Stream 1 to shut down If that happens, yeah, you'll probably see this rip through the moon. But a lot of this also has been already baked in, right? Everyone's kind of expecting that to happen. The question is, will it come back online? That's what the question really is. It's not necessarily will it shut down, but what happens after that? Does it come back 20%? Does it come back 10%? Or does it come back at all? That's what's going to be on the eyes out there for the natural gas traders. So you're going to be having some volatile movement there in Boyle, in UNG, also LNG. That could take another step on up. We'll see what happens there. That's just been an absolute monster, but we'll see if the 9 EMA holds and it takes another push on up. This one's definitely more extended than the others, but we'll see what happens there. All right, let's keep going. Now I want to go ahead and take a look here as we get into stocks that you guys want to go ahead and check it on out. Throw up the stocks that you guys have on your radar, and I'm going to throw up some of the ones that I'm keeping on watch right now. So some of the oil names I'm going to keep on watch is some of the cheaper ones, right? I'm keeping on watch some of these cheaper ones to see if they were going to get the lift. Of course, we started getting some of these to kind of push. KOS is one that I would tell you guys to keep it on watch. Definitely starting to get the lift there on the daily, up about 7%. So keep these ones on watch. They're going to kind of make these nice little moves on up, but they could come back in a hurry. These are some smaller names, but they move when oil starts getting moving. Marathon also getting a nice little push on up. Will it get back into the trend? Will it get back to 30? I'm definitely keeping an eye on it. FUV being brought up. No, that's an interesting stock. Definitely down. I'm still trying to drive one of these RC Motos. I still haven't gotten the chance to drive one. So, Levine, I'm going to actually reach on out to find out what's going on in RC Moto. I know we have a good connection with them. I'm going to see if I can do a trial run. I need to go ahead and test drive one of these RC Motos. But for right now, it's definitely off the ground. It needs to get back. Right now, the big thing is that a lot of people probably aren't doing recreational vehicle buys. Let's just be honest. This is in recreational vehicles. Are people probably buying those big priced recreational toys right now? Probably not. And so until the story turns around in this end, I think that you see this stock just continue to leak. We'll see if it can turn back around. I mean, take a look at Camping World Holdings, right? I mean, this is a perfect example of a stock that I think comes right back down here. I think this is a good short opportunity here for Camping World Holdings because I don't think they're going to be able to kind of meet their sales that they expect to meet. We'll see what happens there in recreational vehicles. All right, Party tested 2. Yeah, it tested 2, but it needs to hold above 2. Look at the daily chart on this. If it closes above 2 or makes a move above 2, that's when it could really start coming back. That's why I've been keeping an eye on it on the hourly and the daily. The 9 EMA is right there. It's trying to curl back above close, let's say towards 208, 217. That's going to really give it a good look, but definitely keep it on your watch. I do think eventually Party has a little bit of a run, but the question is when and where. That's what everyone's going to be looking at. We'll see if it can actually get the party started. All right, Phase 100% shorted and could keep going. Well, a lot of this is understanding how do you trade SPACs. So that's what I would tell you about Phase is understand kind of the low float trade that's out there probably for this phase and be careful because it is going to do some fast moves. I mean, just take a look at the daily outlook. It had on one day where it was a high of 20, a low of 14. That right there is a 40% day, 40% move. It's already today had a almost 21% move. So understand the volatility in this is always what you need to see. 1,000% cost to borrow. So a lot of that is what you're seeing is the float game that's played there on Phase. So keep an eye on that so you can understand. Not saying that you can't make money on this, Alan, but you got to understand that there's some other factors that are part of this. All right, let's go ahead. Let's take a look here. It looks like MG&I getting a little bit of a lift today. Nah, there's not much there. All right, let's go towards some other stocks and see what we see moving out there. Defensives getting a little bit of a bounce back. Looks like farming products getting a little bit of a bounce today. Dole, VITL, Vita Farms, AGRO. A lot of these farming stocks getting a little bit of a lift. Let's take a look at some of the high cap names. ADM, All right, that one looks a little bit better. Look at this Archer Daniel Midland trying to get through the highs. Doesn't look too bad there. 91, take that next step up there. We'll see what happens on that one. Tyson coming down fast. Be careful there. Calm, not seeing too much in the farming products, even though it's starting to get back up. This is probably one of the best looking charts right here. This AGRO. I would be looking for pullbacks towards 967 to hold. And you got some moving averages below. Doesn't look too bad at all. LABU, Biotech Bull. That's a little bit hard one to play. I think today was a good one because it is coming down and it could pump, but I think this is also going to, when it crashes, it's going to crash pretty hard on the downside. Just be careful with that one. That LABU is a biotech bull, 3 times leverage. Moderna is the one that I would keep watch on that one. But look at the daily chart on this. This has come back down in a hurry. Could catch a little bit of a bounce now after it's been declining essentially for about 25 days now, 26 days. GIS, General Mills. General Mills has stayed up near the top. And so any pullback, let's say towards the 76.50s is a good area. But not much here on the green side, right? I mean, even if it comes up, it's just going to step up. All right. Looks like we're starting to get the market into positive territory. Let's take a look here. Yeah, definitely starting to come back on up here. Trying to get through the close. We'll see if it can start pushing back here a little bit. And will we get some of the leadership to go into green? Look at Apple still in the red, Microsoft in the red, Google in the red, Amazon in the red. So I think we need some of this leadership to at least show some green. Meta in the red. The only ones that are up right now are UNH, Visa, and ExxonMobil. So energy trades. Nothing else, at least from these leaders that I normally watch, are up today. What's up with Tesla? Tesla catching a little bit of a bounce. This one doesn't look too bad. It's still in the red from the day, but trying to catch the bounce there. Happy Monday, MD. How we doing out there? All right, if you guys got a ticker to call out, hey, keep them going here. I don't have too much more else today. I mean, there really isn't the craziest amount of micro headlines today. It just seems like it's more everyone watching the macro situation to see what happens next. Boeing continuing the lift there. That one is one that I actually say I had given a bearish outlook down here, and I was wrong. And I think I'm going to continue being wrong on this one. Doesn't look bad if it can get back above the 170. If it can get above the 170, I think you eventually get towards the 200 outlook. It's not a bad one. It's making its way back. It's just battling. Phase might go crazy. Yes, it might go crazy. But the only thing is to understand is that the low float can also hit you on the downside just as hard as it can hit you on the upside. Amazon, will it do that daily fill? That's what I'm looking for. Will we get the daily fill down here? I've been waiting for this to kind of fill down here. This is why I was looking at this to kind of come down. This is 122.84. Will we get that fill? Let's see. I think that's why you're also calling the kind of the next stop there, born on Amazon, 125-ish. Doesn't look too bad. PDD, will it continue its raise today? It's trying to catch the bid here around the VWAP. You know, it's made a couple of moves down. Has tried to break down through 67. We'll see if it can come back on up. Not a bad stock to take a look at for especially your intraday traders. All right, it's about 1:53. I'm going to actually wrap up a little bit early today as we keep going. I tried to take a look at some of the stocks that you guys are watching. I'm going to just go ahead and wrap on up as I'm going to keep watching some oil names. I will go ahead and bring up some of the earnings stocks that you guys can keep on watch for today. Let's go ahead. Let's bring up those earnings and maybe take a little bit of a quick peek to see what is moving in earnings land tonight. So tonight, of course, Monday night, we have a joy to you, gambling.com. Not the biggest stocks, but tomorrow we get Best Buy, right? You get Baidu, you get Big Lots. Big Lots, definitely keep that one on watch. We'll see if it can get moving. Best Buy is one that I'll keep on watch. Kirkland, we'll see what we get. And also after the close tomorrow, we get HP, Chewy, ChargePoint, CrowdStrike. There's some good ones after tomorrow and Wednesday. I think these are definitely ones that we need to keep on watch and keep it on our radars. We'll see what happens there. let's take a quick look at how Best Buy is doing today going into their earnings tomorrow. It is bouncing back a little bit. Will we get some negative numbers from Best Buy? Do you guys remember when I was shorting this when it was cutting through 100? This is one of those ones that you're like, man, we should have just rode that down. Yeah, we were shorting it up there in the 100 area, and this has really continued down since then. Got a gift when it bounced up there to 85, now coming back down hard. A lot of this also based on the outlook probably that they're going to give the guidance. What will happen into winter? What will happen going into, of course, the holiday seasons? Will they get the sales that they need to kind of keep the stock up is something to keep an eye out on Best Buy. We'll see what happens there. I'm going to go ahead and wrap on up. Like always, guys, we'll keep a watch on the stocks and catch me on At the Close. I'll have Joel Elconin back and we can take a look at what is moving in this market. Hope that I see you guys on At the Close. That's at 3:30. Don't miss that. And of course, we'll watch all the moves that caught the tape today. Will we end the day green? Gonna have to wait to find on out. SPY up there towards 405, definitely bouncing today. We did get down to the low of the move, but then bounced off of that. So let's see what happens here. Do we get a leak towards the close? We'll see what happens. All right, I'll catch you next time on Stock Market Movers. Like always, this is the show that gets you all the headlines and, of course, get you these expert opinions that you guys want to hear. Today, we went to Nakul, Duggal, head of automotive product and program management at Qualcomm. And stay tuned to find out more from Qualcomm as we keep following along as they get into their investor day. And we'll see what happens, right? We talked about, of course, the rug pull from Fed Chair Jerome Powell. We talked about the bear case and the bull case moving forward. I think this is important to check on out. So if you're just joining in, rewind, check out the beginning of the show where I talk about the bear case and the bull case. What is it going to take? Where is it going to keep going? This is what I'm going to try to do more often now, is kind of give you guys both sides of the table, and then you guys determine what side you are sitting on. Like always, you guys know that sometimes I'm going to be leaning more on the bearish side, at least in the time being, until I can see some true turnaround in the stock market. And we got a lot of headwinds to watch out for, a lot of inflation to keep on watch. September, the worst month of course, the year, statistically wise. And now we need to see how the quantitative tightening really comes into play to this market. We'll see what happens. Like always, hit the like before you get on out of here, and I'll see you next time on Stock Market Movers.